So I just want a quick chat this morning about two books which they've been finished a while now. I'm just yet to release them. So two big, big boxing books. Two, I suppose you could probably say, villains of the game these days. Obviously, in regards to Junior Witter, I suppose your Hara Davies or your Derek Chisoras took over him. But Junior was the original bad guy, pantomime villain, if you like. Didn't really didn't didn't go out of his way to make people like him, and obviously did everything in the ring. Completed the sport: British, Commonwealth, European, Intercontinental, and of course a world title, the WBC. Yeah, he's Junior wore a mask and pretended to be the bad guy, really. But yeah, this book will show a different side to him. And another guy who, I mean, I've spoke to a lot of people who say the opposite, but you know, if it's in the boxing industry, certainly in the boxing world, if you like, certainly if you listen to read the media, um, basically they will have Mickey Duff as some kind of, I think I used it in the introduction. I think I described him as Bricktop, big glasses, abrupt, charm of a rattlesnake, Cockney East End boxing promoter. Um, guy who, he was not scared of anyone, literally. A real life honey badger, I think I described him as. But that book is something like there's 50 people. I've did a couple of chapters as well. Obviously, I did the start and the end, and I did another couple of chapters as well. Mickey Duff, obviously did it all in boxing. He was a boxer himself, so for many years before, uh, Ricky Hatton did it, and Audley Harrison, and Floyd Mayweather, and Oscar De La Hoya. Monic Prager was the first who was a boxer and then went behind the ropes, outside the ropes. He realised that he, as a pugilist, was never going to set the world on fire. So he used boxing as a vehicle to, transform his life, and he did do that. He had a very good record. It was something like 69 professional fights, 8 losses, 6 draws, and the rest were, I can't work it out. So about 50 odd wins. So it was a fabulous record. But he would quite mock. He would make a joke of his career. I was his style, if you like. He would say stuff like, "I was a kind of jab and move guy, but sometimes I forget the jab." Listen, the guy grew up in poverty in the East End in Spitalfields, and ended up. I was going to say arguably, but listen, he ended up in a Hall of Fame. I'm not talking about the Britain Hall of Fame or the Hall of Fame. So yeah, the guy is a boxing great. Out of anyone, I've met so many people over the years, last couple of years, and I'm not just talking about book subjects or potential book subjects. I've met Mike Tyson, I've met Thomas Hearns, I've spoke to Sugar Ray Leonard on the phone, and I've had some really starstruck things. But out of anyone in the boxing industry, I would have loved to have met was Money Prager, aka Mickey Duff. So this book is the biggest book I've ever released. I think it's something like about 108,000 words. So by the time the small print goes in, it'll be 110,000 easy. It's 2 books in one, really, but it was a real labour of love. I'd only planned on speaking to 30 people, I think, and then I got then a 40, and I just kept going and going at 50, and even the publishers were just like, look, maybe you want to put it into 2 books, and I said, no, no, no. Look, listen, this is a real end, from fruition of interest, of obsession. So yeah, they're both Junior Witter and Mickey Duff will kind of almost be frowned upon as baddies of the boxing world. Very harshly on Junior Witter's account, really, but obviously his other guy in the division who was around in his, British level, Commonwealth level, European world levels, Ricky Hatton, and he was the most adored, loved fighter in, I want to say, British history, but you know what? Sporting history. I don't think there's anyone. I think I've said it before. Frank Bruno was loved, and people really adored Henry Cooper. But though I don't think there'll ever be the tens of thousands of people who'll go over Vegas again like they did for Ricky Hatton. And Junior knew I'm not going to match him for being liked, so I'll do the opposite. And what's the opposite to being liked is to being disliked, and to started mocking him and insulting him, and it was just it was a plan to get the big fight. Sadly, it never came off, which I think is a crime to boxing. I really do. Eddie Hearn coming to sport. It was his first solo show. Was back in 2010, I think it was, maybe 2011. But anyway, basically it was too short. I think if Eddie Hearn had come along 5 years earlier, do you know what? Even 3 or 4 years earlier, I think Hatton would have, particularly now with all the Saudi money and all this. But yeah, it's a tragic. It is real sad. It's. And I remember watching a telly about a year back, and Tyson Fury said if AJ Fury doesn't come off, it'll be the biggest fight we've never seen since Witter Hatton. But like I said, Ricky was loved, and Junior knew he had to make waves for doing what he did. And but he's, as I said, he is a nice man. Junior's a really lovely guy. I've got a lot of love and respect for him. And yeah, we've been on this book now for something like over 4 years. Well, agreed to it over 4 years. I think we recorded it 3 years ago. I just spent a few days with him. I spent a day with him last week, and then 3 days of him the week before. So moral of the story is I've got Junior Witter, the avoided, and I've got Mickey Duff, the ringmaster. Both finished, both getting proofread. I'm thinking to release them the same day, but then again, it'll probably be expensive for the reader. So I think what I'll do is maybe release Junior's first early December. We had planned on releasing it on the day Ricky has his exhibition, and Mickey Duff's, I don't know, maybe the week before Christmas or something. Of course, it's they're both big names, both big British boxing names, both absolute legends. As I said, Mickey Duff, Hall of Famer, and Junior Witter, WBC, World Boxing Council champion. Did it all, regardless of what you think of him. He completed boxing. There was nothing else to achieve. So yeah, there's going to be 2 big books coming from me in the next 2 months on 2 real proper sporting greats, boxing mammoth names. Mickey Duff was in the game for decades. Barry McGuigan described him to me as he was a giant in boxing. And Junior, I think one of the quotes in this book, I think we're probably going to put it on the front of the book, maybe possibly, is Razor Ramon gave a quote years ago, and he said something like, "Bad times don't last, bad guys do." And Junior was a bad guy, and his career literally. So he had his first pro fight in '97. Last one, 2015, but he didn't retire until was it 2018, 2000? It was literally the guy literally boxed for 20 years, 53 fights, and as I said, at every level, won a Lonsdale belt, won a world title belt, and then years later went back and won another British title against a top fighter in Colin Lyons. So yeah, both villains. Well, I personally don't think they are. I think Junior's more massively misunderstood. That's what Johnny Nelson said in his foreword. And Mickey Duff, he was a good man. He was a proper man. He was, in that world of testosterone and skullduggery, and because boxing's a filthy business, it's a dirty, despicable, low world away from the lights of the Sky Sports and that. There's a lot of things in boxing that can happen that the public won't be, um, you know, won't be aware of. And Mickey Duff wouldn't be bullied by anyone. The Cray twins, Rocky Manciano, God, there's loads of stories I've spoken to, and he stood up to people. He just wouldn't be bullied. To quote him, I think it was something. I think he was describing Jack Spot Comer or the Craze, and it was something like, "I don't think there's anything lower in society than people who trade off fear. To be bullies, and these days you don't get away with it. But back in that time, growing up in the 40s and the 50s, and particularly somewhere like the East End of London, where obviously people are aware of the Craze, but there was a lot more other dangerous, bigger characters, if you like. Your Jack Spot Comers, your Albert Dimes, your Billy Hills, your Moisty Blue Boys, and all those kind of names that would want to go to boxing shows for free and try and put themselves onto Duff, and he would never tolerate any kind of crap like that. So yeah, I don't mind admitting I've been completely obsessed with him for about 2 years. Very sad that I've had to finish it, and yeah, as I said, if there's anyone I would have loved to have met in boxing, it would have been Duff. He was really something else. But anyway, so look out for those names. Look out for those titles. The Ringmaster, Mickey Duff, and The Avoided, Junior the Hitter Witter. What's it about? The clues in the name. Two big. I think Junior's biography is even something like kicking on for 90,000 words. So the average book in that genre is 70 or 80,000. So they're going to be lengthy reads. They'll be out on the Kindle. So yeah, look out for those two titles if you're interested in boxing. And a lot of people, unless you're an absolute anorak like myself, Mickey Duff he's in Cockney rhyme and slang for wacky backy. But a lot of people don't really know the story, or if they do, they'll believe, oh well, he was a bad guy and he ripped so and so off and this that, and I went out my way to really. The forward's been done by Barry McGuigan, but I've went out and I've spoken to some real people who knew him, some people who despised him, but regardless, there was whether you liked him or loved him, you respected him because he was good at his job, and that's the thing with Junior Witter as well. A lot of people went and bought tickets to watch him get knocked out, but they still bought his tickets, and Junior was all right with that. So yeah, look out for those two book titles coming in the next couple of months.